I am extremely dysregulated, and I'm probably saying that in a very regulated way. Um, so I'm just going to talk about it. So the idea for this week's episode was talking about really hard things with children, like the hurricanes that have been happening, the wars that are happening, things that are just really scary and scary for adults, but also um, like it affects adults. And so how does that affect our kids and our students? As someone who was in middle school when 9/11 happened, I don't think I really understood the significance of 9/11 until I was like in college. Um, and even though we did have teachers try to explain it to us, there's just something that isn't really, I don't really know what it is, but something just doesn't always get grasped. I digress. We had a really tough week this week. I have been sharing it on social media very minimally, as I don't need to share everything about my life on social media. But I do think that this is a lesson that I think a lot of people would benefit from hearing about. So basically, my oldest got hurt. Something fell on her head, and she had to get a lot of stitches. It was just really scary. I happened to be solo parenting. Um, just, I mean, my partner was like in the air when all this happened. I had to call neighbors to come and help, and an emergency room visit later. We, with both of my kids, eventually made it home that night and went to bed. But then the next 4 or 5 hours, I stayed awake in bed, reliving everything that happened, thinking about all the different ways it could have gone, and even reflecting on how my kids took the whole experience compared to how I took the whole experience. And then the day that I'm recording this, the stitches that my oldest had to get, they all came out today. And that was, I don't want to say more traumatizing, but it just is very fresh. And so it really reopened a lot of wounds for me this last week. It's been a rough 8 days because I've also been really worried about my kids wrestling and my oldest hitting her head on anything, because she feels fine and wants to play. But as the adult, I know that she can't do all that stuff without there being a possible precautions. Um, so it's been okay. So these moments that were happening were very extreme, one of a kind moments. And I feel like both of my kids handled this whole thing so well because all of the little moments leading up to it, we've practiced. We talk about what it means going to the doctor. We talk about shots. I don't ever lie to them about something not hurting. Um, and I also don't tell them how I'm going to feel during a shot because what their perspective is going to be a lot different than mine. And I simplify things for them to be able to understand what it is, as they don't have the same intellect that I have. However, to describe that. Okay. So, for example, like when we go for checkups and they might have to get boosters or flu shots or whatever, those are things that we talk about before we plan it. We kind of have some social stories that go over. We just talk about things in a very honest, open way. And then I try to give them strategies to, going through things that are painful because in life we do get hurt. We do go through painful things and we do have to find strategies that support, whatever we need. Um, and so that is what we have been really focusing on just in general with small children. And so when this accident happened, it was very much, how it kind of like put us to the test of everything that we've done before. How do we support them through this scary moment? How do we make sure both kids feel love and support during something that's so scary? And and yeah, so we did a pretty good job. I would like to think so. Um So during this, they did have a lot of questions of like, why are other people in the hospital? Like, did other people have the same thing happen? And I also used this as a reason of why we have all the rules that we have, because I tell them a lot. I'm like, my job is to keep you safe. And I can't, I keep you safe with, I don't have a lot of rules, but I do need you to listen to the rules that we do have. And we talk about, like not running into the street. And it's not just that. We say, you don't run into the street because cars are on streets and cars don't always see little kids in the street, and that's not good. And we practice, before we cross the street to look. If we car is coming, we practice making eye contact with the person and seeing if they're waving us to go. Um, we talk about all those things so they can understand why there are rules, why we're trying to be safe, and all that stuff. Um, and why I'm telling you this entire story is because I also want to talk about when there are natural disasters in the world and people get hurt and people are scared and people, need help. Because that is something that happens on a minor scale every day. And we can always be practicing being there for each other and supporting each other and accommodating each other to whatever the other person needs. And so that is something that um I just feel like if you practice every day how to teach your child, to feel regulated when they're dysregulated, or to regulate themselves, it could be very beneficial in the long run when big things do happen. And I guess talking about natural disasters, I do want to explain and to my child's incident or accident, um, is that knowledge is like what we're seeking. Uh, so I used to be so afraid of natural disasters, of like earthquakes and hurricanes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still am, but I had a fear that I would say like an uncontrollable fear where like panic attacks would happen. And what changed that was that I took a class in college that was called Natural Disasters, and it taught us all about natural disasters. It talked about landslides and earthquakes and tsunamis and hurricanes and tornadoes, like everything. And even though a lot of it is, especially like earthquakes, like you don't really know that an earthquake's about to happen, but understanding, what is happening during an earthquake, the safety protocols we all now know because of the earthquakes the world has experienced, and just, I mean, things like that. It makes it so less scary. And that is how my child felt in the emergency room. They described everything that they were doing to her with the appropriate amount of detail that she needed to understand what was going on. They didn't just say, hold still, this is going to hurt a little. They sat there and explained how things were going to go. They made it fun. They also taught her. And I'm not saying you have to make what is happening around the world fun, because there are just also really bad things happening, unfortunately, always happening. Um, but being able to talk about it and learn about what actionable steps that we can do could be is very beneficial for you and your kids. Um, there was something else I wanted to talk about. I guess if I can give you some tips on how to talk about really big, scary things. Um, and again, what I mean by practicing every day, I mean really trying to connect things that are happening to other things that are happening. So like um today we were getting into the car to go to preschool. And there was a plane and it was really loud. And I think the wind had it going on like a different track because we really only hear it if it's really windy and then planes come towards us instead. But it was super loud. And so I was looking around kind of like, whoa, where is that coming from? Why is that so loud? We're not usually outside for a lot of planes. Um, and my youngest was closing his ears and was getting really nervous. And I was like, yeah, that's really loud, huh? Like, good job covering your ears. Like, does that make you think of the thunder and lightning we saw over the summer? And just kind of have conversations about it, um, which really gets their brain working. And I think it kind of helps through the dysregulation of like how to, regulate yourself, which brings me to the beginning of how this whole thing started, of me saying how dysregulated I feel right now. Um, It was rough. We got home and I we watched a movie. We watched like a full movie and a half. Um, I just chilled out, made some snacks, kind of tried to do some active playtime with the kids that did not involve anything super active as we were all very tired. Um, And then at some point, I was just having such a hard time. I eventually asked my partner if he could come down and switch with me as he was working. I did wait till the end of the day, but he came down and I went straight to the room, my own room, threw some pillows around. I tried to scream into a pillow. That never seems to work. As much as I want to scream into a pillow, it just never works for me. Throwing pillows and like hitting things that are soft really help. And then I sat down and I like just tried to get through something on my to-do list. I also just scrolled on social media as like an outlet to just uh, distract my brain from the fake news I was giving myself. Um, but when I do things like this, I can tell myself that I have found ways to regulate myself when I am feeling dysregulated. And it's my job as a parent, as an educator, to help children and students find their way to regulate themselves when they're feeling dysregulated. And it's going to look different for everybody. Um, Maybe sometimes kids want to go for a walk. Maybe they want to be alone, and we have to try to find a safe way for them to be alone. Maybe they want to blow bubbles. Maybe they want to do yoga. Maybe they want to go run around a track 10 times. I definitely am the one who wants to work out when I'm really mad. I think that's why I throw my pillows because that's like the safest way to do that without actually doing a workout class when I don't have time. I don't even know if this podcast episode is going to be any good. Um, if you don't know how to talk to your child about something that is really serious, I'm almost done, I swear. Write it down. Write down like an outline, like you're doing a paper, like a social story. I love social stories, and they just put my mind in such a easy place of like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what that means. You know, this is what you can do. And then for this is what you can do, it's like, do you need a break? Do you want to find a way to help? Do you want to keep talking about it and learn more? Do you want to stop talking about it? Giving all those options so kids can understand, where they are in this decision making, in this, being an active participant in the community is so important. Um, so yeah, it's been a crazy week. So I am not, again, I'm not entirely sure why I thought this podcast episode should be recorded right now, but it just felt like I needed to talk that out so you can hear that even though I, preach parenting techniques all the time, teaching strategies, how to talk to kids, how to regulate everyone. That doesn't mean I don't get dysregulated. That doesn't mean I don't yell at my kids sometimes. That doesn't mean that like I don't get so mad at them that I have to like, well, if you want to scream into a pillow, throw a pillow. Um, so be easy on yourself. Make sure that you're setting boundaries that keep you regulated and step out if you need to step out. If people can safely be sitting somewhere, step out. Turn on the TV and step out. No one's giving you a medal for not watching any screen time today. Um, get regulated, go back in and find a puzzle to do. Kids just want to actively play with you so bad. Okay, seriously, that's it. Thank you for being here. And thanks for coming to my therapy session with myself. And I know tomorrow is going to be a better day after I get a good night's sleep. Okay. Inclusion starts with you, and I just want to help. Bye.